Good morning, I'm Michael from Mo Monster Gaming, and if you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. So today I'm looking at Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer number 16. So this one comes with these wooden inspiration tokens. I mean, I'm not sure I'd use them. They're very nice, but they're not for me. They stack nicely though. I think the kids will like them. But comes with these wooden inspiration tokens, and then inside today's one, what do we have? We've got some sage advice, we've got working together, managing monsters, missing and new players, taverns and inns, contests, challenges and tournaments, and then for character creation we've got factions, and I'm never sure if I say this right, genocide. And then here we've got a lore for the Sea of Swords. And then finally, the encounter adventure bit is a night to remember. Okay, so here we have working together. So this just basically gives a brief overview of group checks. It actually covered group checks in a slightly earlier issue, but it covered it within an encounter. Here it actually talks about how you can make your combat tactics more successful. Actually, it's got a couple of really good tips, like making sure that you've got one player distracting the enemy so your rogue can sneak in behind, how two people tackling a big monster makes it go down easier than one. It's good. It's not just exclusive mechanics for the group check here. It actually talks about how you can use how your group can use each other to basically win a combat scenario, do some good exploration, and just do some generally good role playing. So it wasn't basic. It was all right. So here we've got a piece on managing monsters. Love this picture here of the beholder, and all this does is talks about the traits, the actions and the bonus actions that the monsters have. So this is the third one they've done for monsters, and each time it's got a little bit more expansive, talking about more of which a monster can do when you're playing your games. This bit here was quite good. Missing and new players, so it talks about how if you've got a missing player, what you can do with them, and also how to introduce a new player. So I quite like both of them. But this is the bit that I really liked. So here we have a piece on inns and taverns, and I think the majority of all my games have started. The quests always start in an inn or a tavern, as I'm sure they are for most players. And here it talks about some of the really good uses that you can make of a tavern. Have a little bit here about the Yawning Portal, which is a famous inn in Waterdeep. And here we have a little bit about the prices of rooms and the type of lodgings. But this was the bit that I really liked. It was just a well laid out for DMs, how you can turn the tavern to your advantage. And don't get me wrong, it's basic, but it reads so well. It even gave me a few ideas after all these years. So here we got a bit on contests, challenges and tournaments. And at first glance, I thought, oh, it's going to be talking about like arm wrestling and jousting and like hook a duck and stuff. But actually it does talk about when you're trying to accomplish one thing and the opponent is trying to accomplish the other, and it uses a really good example of a monster trying to get through a door. So actually I thought it was quite good. I thought it was really going to be about, well, like it says here, about games and gambling, but it's actually got some good ideas for practical use of how to manage a situation if they're in a dungeon, if they're in a castle, if they're in an encounter in the wild. Maybe you're trying to get over a rope bridge and there's some argy-bargy or whatever. It's got some good ideas in this bit. So here we have a piece on factions. They've already covered factions a little bit earlier on in the series. Here are the main 5 factions. Forgotten Realms. Nothing new there. I think they've actually talked about each of them in well, not all of them, but I think they've talked about some of them in detail earlier in the series of books. Introducing yet another new species the players can be. So they are based on, they're descended from genies, I think is the description from the player's handbook. And you get different sorts. You get earth, water, fire and air. So I've never played one. I have to admit, I've never really had an interest one, but I imagine they're pretty cool. And then here we have the Sea of Swords. It's quite nice, this little page, but then this page is just a picture of a boat. It's a very nice picture of a boat. It's just a picture of a boat. So I did feel like they were skimping on the lore in this bit here. And then on to the encounter. Now, normally these play out with as a quest with something that they've got to achieve in a location they've got to go to. This is actually just, they go to the tavern and they hang out. And it's really good. It's really well thought out. And there's some really good little characters in it. So they travel to, they finally get to Neverwinter, and if they've been following the quests from the previous issues or the encounters from the previous issues, they've got there with Orm Greywind, and he pays them 300 gold that he promised to pay him, and then he says, you know what, I'll buy you around at the Beach Leviathan, which is a pirate ship that crashed into the docks. It's run aground, it's stayed there forever. They've turned it into a tavern, turned it into a pub, and it's a bit of a seedy local dive, but for whatever reason, Orm Greywind wants to go check it out. And other than buy the first round for the players, he's got no other involvement unless you as the DM try to include him in it. But there's plenty for them to do here. And I like how, I'll get to it in a second, but it sets up further encounters in Neverwinter, because at first glance when I was flicking through it, I couldn't work out what the purpose of this is. They're just going to chill in a tavern, but actually you can use this tavern to lead to the character hooks in the further adventures. So anyway, so we've got a captain who runs it, we've got a bard, a performing bard, and we've got a rat catcher who's always eavesdropping on conversations. Spoilers, he actually is a spy, which I thought was quite good. Jabal Reese, I quite like that name. Jabal Reese, a scruffy looking gnome who's actually a spy for Lord Neverwinter. Anyway, from here, they can pick up rumours. So if they're just sitting around, they're just waiting, they're just having their drinks, they can pick up rumours, and these rumours lead to encounters that have yet to be printed. And I really like that. I mean, I'm on the fence of carrying on past 20 anyway. I'm pretty sure I'm stopping. But this has piqued my interest because I quite want to find out what's going on with these undead in, Encounter 26. And there's a doppelganger who's escaped in Encounter number 23. It actually sounds interesting. Anyway, so here we have, they can then, once they've done listening to their rumours, or while they're listening to their rumours, they can get involved in some activities at the Beach Leviathan. So they can enter an arm wrestling contest. It's a battle of strength against 3 other people. Might win them some money. I quite like this one though. Upstairs, there's a bunch of halflings doing a game of chance. I actually quite like the game of chance. It all revolves around rolling 4 dice and then trying to get as close to 21 as possible, and then rolling more dice, but higher and higher dice as you go. And there is a chance for them to swindle this rust bag of tricks from the halfling, who very reluctantly will give it over if they basically win all of their money. Sounds really good, and I like this bag of tricks. You pull out like a little fuzzy toy, and whoosh, you throw a rat or an owl or a goat at your opponent. I say throw, it's a real one, and you've actually probably got to look after it and take care of it, but I thought it was quite good. And then finally, what encounter in a tavern, doesn't end in a bar fight? So a bunch of ruffians, 8 bandits enter the pub, and it all kicks off. And instead of fighting with weapons, they're all fighting with chair legs and tables and, flagons of ale. And it looks fun. So overall, I actually thought, despite the fact it doesn't really go anywhere and it's just a lot of setup and it's a bit of downtime, I thought A Night to Remember was a pretty fun encounter. Play it over a couple of hours and, help set up. Now, you could drop this into any of your quests and use it as your springboard to whatever tale you want to go off and tell. I really liked it. And just because it says it's Neverwinter, you could drop it anywhere you liked, as long as it's got somewhere where the boat could crash and end up. But I thought the characters were fleshed out nicely. I thought the backstory of the Beach Leviathan was fleshed out nicely. You could use it anywhere. I thought it was good. Thank you very much. Oh, well, before we go, on the last page, we've got a bit of slang. Bit of slang that the patrons of the Beach Leviathan use. And then we've got stats for the bard, stats for the pirate captain, and stats for the city guards that potentially, if Orum's not with them, they can point them in the direction of the Beach Leviathan. Anyway, thank you very much for looking. Take care.